This is Top 30. Violent protests in St. Louis led to tense confrontations between demonstrators and police, leading to more than 100 arrests over the weekend. Peaceful protests during the day transformed to violent standoffs with police at night. St. Louis police said groups of criminals were creating the chaos. The protest started Friday shortly after a judge ruled a white police officer was not guilty in the shooting death of a black man in 2011. Jason Stockley was charged with killing Lamar Smith after a high-speed pursuit. Stockley says he felt like he was in imminent danger when he opened fire. Prosecutors say he intended to kill Smith and that he planted a gun, but the judge said there was no evidence to prove that. During the protests, many windows were smashed with trash cans as demonstrators retreated from the police. The AP spoke to a witness who says that he understands why people are angry and believes the US justice system needs to be fixed. Quote, "I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, but the window isn't murdered. Nobody's going to have a funeral for the window. We can replace it." Smith's death is one of several high-profile cases in recent years in which a white officer was found not guilty of killing a black suspect.
Politics was the theme of this year's Emmys, and so was cord cutting. Host Stephen Colbert joked that 5 years ago, the hottest show on Netflix was a scratch DVD of Finding Nemo. On Sunday, the streaming giant won 4 Emmys. It was another digital platform that made Emmy history. Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale won 5 statues, including Outstanding Drama Series. It's the first time a streaming series has won the Emmys top prize. HBO won 10 trophies, the most of any network. Big Little Lies won 5 awards and marked the first Emmys for Nicole Kidman, Laura Dern, and Alexander Skarsgård. It wasn't the first trophy for Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She won for Veep for the 6th time, a record for any performer in the same role. There were also some firsts on the diversity front. The award for Best Comedy Writing went to Master of None's Lena Waithe, making her the first African-American to win. Donald Glover became the first African-American to win for directing a comedy series, Atlanta. Riz Ahmed became the first man of Asian descent to win an acting award for The Night Of. There were political jokes and speeches throughout the night. Saturday Night Live's Kate McKinnon thanked Hillary Clinton in her acceptance speech. After winning a trophy for playing President Trump, Alec Baldwin said, "At long last, Mr. President, here is your Emmy." A surprise cameo from Sean Spicer went viral when he entered on a moving podium to announce this year's Emmys would have the biggest audience ever. Not for the first time, Spicer was exaggerating about the size of the crowd. According to early numbers, the show's ratings were down from last year.
In what is being called an inadvertent blunder, Google, which is the world's largest advertising company, allowed advertisers to create ads using terms and phrases to target audiences who use hate speech. The information was exposed by an investigative report done by BuzzFeed. Google's SVP of ads, Sridhar Ramaswamy, said, "That's not good enough and we're not making excuses. We've already turned off these suggestions and any ads that made it through and will work harder to stop this from happening again." Similarly, when ProPublica reported this was an automated practice that occurred on Facebook ads, the social media giant deactivated racist or bigoted suggested terms for advertisers. Together, Google and Facebook corner about 70%, that is 70% of online marketing, which is typically controlled by online bots, putting both in the hot seat as information of the practice was exposed. It'll be interesting to see how things play out for Facebook and Google, not only in terms of the roles they played in the election, but in how they will alter their advertising systems in the future.
This is what's trending. New details in the Natalie Holloway case. John Ludwig claims he and prime suspect Joran Vandersloot burned her skull in an Aruba cave in 2010 to destroy any evidence of her hair. Kevin Hart apologized to his wife and kids in a video this weekend for what he called a bad decision.
I made a bad error in judgment and put myself in an environment where only bad things can happen, and they did.
An unnamed woman was allegedly trying to extort millions from him using a sexually suggestive video implying he cheated on his wife. And American tourists looking for vacations from a simpler time, like the 50s and 60s, can stay at doo-wop-themed motels in New Jersey.
The United States has the costliest colleges and universities in the world. A report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development analyzed 35 countries that have both public public and private universities. The study found the average annual fee for a bachelor's degree in the United States for a public university is about $8,200. Chile is only about $600 behind. Japan, Canada, and Australia round out the top 5. There's an even bigger gap when it comes to private education. The annual fee for a bachelor's degree in the United States is almost $22,000, about $12,000 more than Australia. The same schools are in this top 5, just in a slightly different order. Portugal and Spain were the only 2 countries on the list that averaged below $2,000 a year in both public and private education.
It wasn't a great year for the Peach State. According to 538, an exceptionally warm winter destroyed about 85% of Georgia's peach crop. Dario Chavez from the University of Georgia said, quote, "We had fruit here in Georgia from the middle of May to about probably the first week of July, and after that, we didn't have anything else." A typical season would run through September. USDA researchers say it's the worst peach crop out of Georgia in a century. And it's not just Georgia. Some researchers estimate that by the middle of the 21st century, California's Central Valley might struggle with growing walnuts, apricots, plums, peaches, and nectarines. The delicious fruits aren't obsolete yet, but the way things are headed, you might want to savor that bite of peach cobbler a little extra next time. Top 30 will be right back. Now let's go to the New York Stock Exchange for the Fox Business Minute with Nicole Pedalides.
In business news, Amazon is looking to make organic mainstream. An analyst at Morgan Stanley estimating that Whole Foods can bring in another 12 million customers, more than doubling its current customer base in the next 5 years. This follows the internet giant's acquisition of the organic grocer earlier this year. The analyst also adds that most Amazon customers are not Whole Foods shoppers, a big win for both companies. Speaking of organic, McDonald's is looking to jump on that bandwagon, the fast food chain making Happy Meals healthier. Well, starting in November, they'll be switching to organic juices with less sugar. It'll be made by Honest Tea, owned by Coca-Cola. And Toys R Us kids might be looking for a new place to shop. The company is expected to file for bankruptcy. That's according to a new Wall Street Journal report. This is just one of more than a dozen retail bankruptcies that we've seen this year. The toy store has about $5 billion in debt, more than 1,600 stores around the world.
Executive producers for Game of Thrones are shooting several endings for the show's final episode, so the storyline will not get leaked. Season 7 finished last month, and anticipation is growing for the popular series' final season. The premiere date hasn't yet been set. It could be 2018 or 2019, depending on the final production schedule. HBO's president of programming says the show is making sure there are no spoilers before the final episode, so several versions will be shot, and not even the actors will know which one will be used. Hackers targeted the show last season, releasing episodes online before the show aired on HBO. But here's the thing. We know how it's going to end. Lots of people are going to die.
17-year-old Kelsey Anderson was wearing a maroon long-sleeve peasant top tucked into a pair of blue skinny jeans when a female teacher allegedly accused her of violating the dress code. The offense? Being too busty. According to USA Today, Anderson's attorney, Elizabeth Turner, alleges the Joplin High School teacher in question told the Missouri teen smaller busted women could get away with more than larger busted women. The story picked up steam after Kelsey's mom posted a photo of her daughter in the outfit, expressing her outrage. Joplin School District said in a statement, the district does not consider comments by staff members about students' bodies appropriate. More Americans than ever are working as independent contractors, and not all of them are happy about it. Economists think contractors make up anywhere from 3 to 14% of the workforce. That's as many as 20 million people, a number that's gone up in the last 2 decades. It's great if you're an employer. It gives companies fewer people to manage and more flexibility. Most of all, it lowers costs. Companies aren't liable for payroll taxes on contractors, but contractors get less out of the deal. They usually don't get paid time off, health benefits, or retirement plans. The Wall Street Journal is conducting a survey of contractors. They say they feel like second-class citizens compared to full-time employees, and their contracting gigs can end with little or no warning. One said he felt replaceable, saying, quote, "You realize if this thing doesn't work, it's my fault." That could explain why many in the survey say they feel nervous about their income and careers years, even though they're already working.
Elephants are changing their behavior to survive. They're starting to turn nocturnal in an effort to avoid poachers. A study used GPS collars to track elephant herds in Kenya from 2002 through 2012, and they found that they modified their eating and sleeping patterns when poaching activity was particularly high. Save the Elephant's founder, Ian Douglas Hamilton, said the research shows that, quote, elephants not only fear for their lives, but are intelligent enough to know when they are in danger. Scientists aren't sure yet how this could affect elephants long term and their overall survival. But the fact that they are self-aware enough to have to live with the constant fear of poachers only makes me more angry about the whole thing. Top 30 will be right back.
In today's Hometown Stories, 2-year-old Connor Higgins from Elizabethtown, Kentucky, was diagnosed with auditory neuropathy last year. Sound waves aren't properly transmitted to his brain, meaning he cannot hear nor understand language. Normal hearing aids didn't help, so in August, he underwent bilateral cochlear implant surgery. His parents, Hope and Jacob, didn't want Connor to feel different from other kids, so they both got matching cochlear implant tattoos on the sides of their heads. The first words Connor ever heard were, "Connor, Mommy and Daddy love you." In our second story, volunteer firefighter Ryan Ciampoli from Harrison, Arkansas, is being recognized as a hometown hero for rescuing a 4-year-old girl. Back in April, Ciampoli was driving behind a white church van when its back door swung open and a little girl fell into the street. Ciampoli, who's also an EMT, quickly stopped his own car and rushed to the girl's side. He helped her remain conscious until emergency personnel arrived. Ciampoli is being honored by FireDex. It's a company that makes equipment for firefighters. And for our final story, Ray from Amarillo, Texas, celebrated her 2nd birthday last weekend. Only no one showed up to her party. Her mother, Nicole, posted a frantic message on Facebook, inviting anybody and everybody to attend. Well, some first responders answered the call. Members of the Amarillo Police and Fire Departments celebrated with Ray, making sure she had an extra special birthday. Most 18-year-olds are excited about officially becoming an adult and looking forward to college. But this teen is focused on marketing, fan activation, along with digital media and content strategy for the Minnesota Vikings. Meet Jonas Stillman. He calls himself a Gen Z expert and was hired by the NFL team to help attract younger fans. He and his dad wrote a book on attitudes of Gen Zers and run a company studying Gen Z trends. So what exactly is Gen Z? Stillman says it's anyone born between 1995 and 2012, and they prefer a more private style of communication as opposed to tweeting everything to the masses. So millennials, you're getting old. Looks like Gen Zers are the new trendsetters.
A new Monster.com survey discovered that an astonishing 76%, that is 76% of Americans, have a crippling sense of impending dread on Sunday nights. According to Thrill List, Sunday is not to blame, but rather something called social jet lag. Now, social jet lag is what happens when you stay up late on Fridays and Saturdays and then sleep in the following mornings, effectively throwing off your circadian rhythm. Dr. Michael Bruce, PhD, a board-certified sleep specialist and fellow of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, says if you do this 2 days in a row, you end up with Sunday night insomnia. Additionally, alcohol consumption and stress can lend itself to the panic that you're feeling on Sundays. So sure, that's what happens if you do that 2 days of the week. What I'd like to know is what happens if someone, and I'm mentioning no names, does that most days of the week.
This is your top 30 health roundup. Most people probably think granola is healthy, but watch out, there could be hidden sugars. A CNN report says if you're going to eat granola, make sure you focus on the amount of sugar and serving size before you blow your calorie count. On the topic of things that are good for you, in her new book, Hillary Clinton said she used alternative nostril breathing to cope with post-election stress. But what exactly is that? The Huffington Post reported it's a yoga breathing technique that you do by gently pinching one nostril closed with your fingers and taking 3 long inhales and exhales. Then plug the other nostril and repeat the process. Do the entire rotation 3 times. All better. A team at MIT thinks they figured out a new way to vaccinate children. They discovered a new type of microparticle that allows all childhood vaccines to be injected at once. According to the BBC, it allows the various immunizations to be time-released so they enter the body exactly when they need to be as effective as possible. It hasn't been tested on humans yet, but if it works, it would mean that parents would just need to kiss away one owie.
Mercedes just unveiled its new $2.75 million supercar, and it's basically a Formula One car that is street legal. The state-of-the-art car features 4 electric motors along with its regular engine, and they power the car to a top speed of more than 217 miles per hour. As for acceleration, this car will get you to 60 miles an hour in 2.6 seconds. On the interior, it takes its cue from an F1 car featuring a square steering wheel with multicolored buttons to give you everything at your fingertips. Production starts in 2019, and all 275 cars have already been sold to 275 people who need to grow up. This is Top 30. We'll be right back. The internet rewards bad behavior and constantly feeds you rubbish information. Now, you knew that, but you don't often hear it from the co-founder of Twitter. Ev Williams gave an interview to CNN where he had harsh words for what he calls the internet's attention economy, meaning, quote, attention gets rewarded, not quality of information. If you can generate attention, then you get paid. He says the problem is that most content online is free and supported by advertising, which doesn't favor quality content. That's because publishers get paid by the click, whether or not they're publishing anything worth clicking on. Williams said this is the reason that we're seeing the rise of fake news on the internet. Some of it is to push ideology, but most of it is for money, and he called it, quote, a junk information epidemic. And he appears sincere. He announced earlier this year that one of his other sites, Medium, will move away from ad-based revenue. Humans don't just read junk information because of the internet. We read junk information because we're human.
They say bald is beautiful, but it's also powerful. A new study out of the University of Pennsylvania says bald men are typically viewed as more attractive, confident, and dominant. The research found that when male and female students were shown photos of men and asked to rate them, the bald guys won out in all 3 of those categories. Both black and white men were used in the pictures, all of which were photographed on an identical background from the chest up, wearing a dark suit and tie. Some participants were even shown photos of the same person, one regular and one with their hair digitally removed. And you guessed it, they chose the bald guy. But before you run out and shave your head, you should know the study also found that a bald head ages you by 4 years.
According to the Department of Commerce's latest census figures for 2016, millennials are moving on up because annual reported income for people aged 15 to 24 rose to $41,655. That is an increase of 14%. That's 14%. And at 14%, it's a large enough bump to suggest millennials are finally having an easier time making money. Additionally, people aged 25 to 34 saw a salary bump of close to 5%. According to Mike.com, the stagnation prior to 2016 is due to an influx of inexperienced millennials frantically trying to score decent paying jobs. Evidence suggests this growth among millennials may be attributed to supplemented income from the gig economy, aka part-time jobs with Postmates, Uber, and other freelancing opportunities.
An ad campaign for a popular TV horror show is causing real-life fright for some people with a little-known phobia. American Horror Story is promoting its new season with pictures of body parts edited with holes. And that's exactly what triggers anxiety and fear for people who have trypophobia, a fear of holes and clusters. Yes, it's a real thing, and researchers estimate 5% of the population may be living with this phobia. Although it's hard to track since most people are too embarrassed to talk openly about the condition. Well, if the goal is horror, I guess they're doing their job.
That is it for today's Top 30. Here are some stories coming up that are worth knowing about. You may see some NFL players wearing a different kind of helmet this football season. It is supposed to protect them from head injuries. We will tell you how it works. If you're like most of us, you leave your phone's Bluetooth on all of the time. We'll explain why some security experts say that is a terrible idea. Starbucks is looking to cash in on your lunch break. The coffee chain is expanding its food offerings. Hopefully, they'll offer something I actually want to eat. And we'll have an interview with the youngest designer ever to show at New York Fashion Week. She is just 11. Top 30 is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Like, follow, and subscribe to @Top30 TV and never miss a story. And we'll see you next time right here on Top 30.